John? And your wife in the lobby?
Yes. She took our stuff. She's going to check it in.
Yeah.
She's doing something else.
She is. I tried to persuade her. But
No, she's.
No?
We should probably start.
Yes, we are. Just call the meeting to order, the meeting of the Governance Committee of the Monetary Authority of the State of New York. And we'll get right to the adoption of the minutes of the last March 6th meeting and the May 8th.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Second.
Aye. Okay. Now I'm going to ask Mike to deal with the bylaws revision and the other materials involving that are way beyond those of us that don't have law degrees.
That's right. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. At the March 6th meeting of the Governance Committee, we had a fairly detailed discussion, as detailed in the minutes, on a proposed amendment to Section 3.7 of the bylaws to deal with the situation that we're faced with from time to time, where inclement weather conditions prevent a board member from making it to the location where that was noticed for the meeting, where a quorum is gathered. And that particular board member, he or she, can make it to one of our other locations where video conferencing equipment is available. And as an initial point of clarification, this proposed authorization is slightly different from the existing authorization that has been in the bylaws since the beginning in Section 3.7. Where the chair determines that we may not be able to get a quorum together at the same location, and directs that we set up a video conference meeting. In this particular instance, for inclement weather, the main body of the board is gathered at one location and can make it to that location, and you typically have one or two members who cannot travel to that location due to bad weather. And so in the interest of allowing participation, if that member can get to one of our video locations and is willing to contribute their time and effort towards the meeting, this would allow the chair to direct us to open up a second location for video conferencing purposes. This would be all noticed in accordance with the open meetings law and posted on our website. And I think that the only thing I'll add on top of that, Mr. Johnson, is that we did make a concerted effort to check this under the open meetings law and the case law that is relevant to this area. And while we may be on the forefront of taking on inclement weather conditions, it is clear that we can have a video conference meeting, provided that the notice requirements are abided by in the open meetings law.
So if I understand it correctly, that under the notice requirements, we're going to have to say that it's possible that these other two sites, okay, right? So the question that, if that's the case, the question that occurred to me is, you've noticed it for 3 sites, Albany, Buffalo, and New York. It's just for purposes of discussion. And it turns out that we don't have inclement weather. Everybody gets here. What happens if somebody from the public shows up at one of the other 2 noticed sites? So we have to video conference them in it, I assume.
That's correct.
Okay.
That is correct. We would treat those as part of the open hall for the meeting, okay. The location of the meeting, and we would turn on the video and allow them to observe and participate.
Mm-hmm. Well, not necessarily
participate in the
right.
In the live.
Well, could, but if one of them wanted to make it in public session, wanted to make a comment, which they do occasionally, regular board meetings.
Has that happened?
Well,
I've not seen that.
Well, we've had representatives of various aggrieved labor unions in here who wanted to discuss matters that certainly of our clients.
And have we done that? I don't
mind.
recall.
You remember? No, they just attended. That's good.
If there is concern that the member from the most inclement part of the state is going to get soft on you, comment.
I'm not sure you live in the most inclement part of the state.
We can compete. I mean, I've got a credible argument. Your temperatures get lower,
That's right.
but in terms of just sheer snowfall,
Oh, they would.
I think we got you. No, I know. Oh, no.
Well, whatever.
And I'm not going to go soft.
Maybe we can have a contest.
We're going to form a task force.
No, we're going to have a contest.
We'll have a monthly snowfall total.
The extra state aid, if you will.
Mr. Chairman, I think this is a great amendment.
I
Proposed
think
amendment.
that this has corrected all the questions we raised last.
Yes, it's much more refined.
So we need a motion at this point to advance this to the board.
And one other thing, there was the proposed amendment to section 3.8, which I carried forward exactly as it was last time in March, and that was in the absence of the chair and in the absence of the vice chair, that the secretary would preside over the meeting and call the meeting to order and do things of that nature.
So do we need an action here that takes it out to the board?
But go ahead.
Yes, Paul?
I just have just one question on this. The way it was, or the way it currently is, if the vice chair is absent, then the board shall choose from among the members. The change would mean that if the vice chair is absent, it shall be the secretary. I think it unlikely we'd ever be in that situation, but if all three of them were absent, we don't have the language here that would allow the members to choose from the other members in terms of who would chair. Now, presumably that would happen anyway, but I guess I would ask that question, Mike.
That's correct. I mean, if we were in that situation, and when this came up at the last meeting, I don't remember who made the remark, whether it was before, during, or after the meeting, that if we got down to that level, we might not have a quorum anyway, and so, but we can certainly, if you want to, just out of an abundance of caution, I can get this revised tonight, and when it comes up before the board, we can put that tail on there. But I do remember someone saying if we get down to that level, we probably have a quorum challenge, and I don't know if we were just informally discussing it at that point in time, but there's no harm in putting that in.
Well, Paul, how do you feel about that? I mean, you've raised the question.
Well,
Do you want to see the tail there?
I wouldn't say I feel so strongly about it. I mean, given those two issues, I did want to point it out to see if it was regarded as a concern. Mike, if you don't think it's a problem, I don't see a need to make a change.
I have no problem putting the language in there. I think it's
Mr. Chairman?
Just add the language.
add the language with that change. We'll recommend it.
I mean, we're not talking about anything exhaustive.
Right.
Okay. So do we need to do a resolution in this committee to advance this?
Recommending it to the board with that change.
Do I hear a motion to recommend this proposal, including the change we just discussed, to the board tomorrow?
I move.
Okay, second? Yeah.
Second. I'm not on the committee though.
You want
We need a
Second.
All right, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye, carried. All right, next.
So, a similar amendment is coming up to the, is proposed by the Construction Division to the procurement contract guidelines. And this is really a mixed question of technology, advancements in technology, and professional services. And the concept here is to amend the procurement contract guidelines to include an additional type of procurement contract for professional services that covers cloud computing, hosting, and software as a service, which has an acronym SaaS. And this is deemed necessary in discussions with Paul Koopman and the Construction Division because the current catch-all that they have in the procurement contract guidelines is data processing services. And technology has evolved well past the traditional meaning of data processing services. Second, what you're trying to pick up here with this classification is really the type of professional services that fall under the category of what I would call software engineering. So much like you have professional engineers and architects and other types of professionals under professional services, you're now taking in the information technology world, you're picking up that side of it as professional services. Third, this helps the construction division mitigate risk. They need to make these types of selections on a qualifications basis, not just lowest price. They take into account price, but they also want to take into account qualifications to make sure they're getting the best expertise for the dollars. And if we have this clearly under professional services as an authorized type of a procurement contract, that helps them mitigate the risk of a bid challenge in the event someone's disgruntled and says, I should have received the award because I had the lowest price. And so they're really lining up their reasoning for that and for those reasons. And I have no legal objections to it, subject to the review of this committee and the board. It seems to make sense, and I'll note that in a recent training session that Mauro Lapatina attended for our office that was put on in the Office of the Comptroller was speaking, they recommended that agencies and authorities go through and list this as a professional service for a lot of the same reasons that I just mentioned. So with that, I turn it over to the committee.
Anybody have any questions about this proposal?
No, sir, I do not.
Paul?
No,
Jonathan?
no,
All
fine.
right, then, it makes infinite sense. If somebody can explain cloud computing, that will be very helpful. Maybe this will help. So, we have a motion?
We do.
All right,
So,
second. All those in favor, aye.
aye.
Any opposed? Carried. All right. What do we have?
So if the committee would like, you can go through it. I'll turn it over to you for executive session on the
So I would like to move that we have go into executive session to discuss the financial or credit history of particular corporations proposed pending the current litigation, employment history of political persons or matters relating to appointment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of particular persons. Second
So moved.
motion. Second?
Second.
All those in favor, aye. And we're going to go into executive. Carried. So we're going to go into executive session, and this is for board members only.
You're right. I wanted to go have some
Gotcha, so shut up. All right. We're the Governance Committee, the Dormitory Authority, has just come out of executive session where no decisions were made. So do I hear a motion to adjourn this meeting?
here.
Second?
Second.
Second there. All those in favor? Yay?
Aye.
Yay. All right. Go home.